The day began like any other for Ethan Miller, alarm clock blaring at 6:30, a splash of cold water on his tired face, and a quiet sigh as he stared at his reflection. His blue eyes looked older than his 32 years, framed by sleepless shadows that no amount of coffee could fix. But when he turned toward the small bedroom across the hall and saw his daughter, Lily, sleeping with her stuffed bunny tucked under her chin, his weariness melted away. "Rise and shine, sunshine," he whispered softly. Lily stirred, blinking up at him with sleepy eyes. "Is it Saturday, Daddy?" He smiled. "It sure is. Grocery day. And maybe, if we're quick, we'll stop by the park after." That got her moving. Lily adored the park, not for the swings or the slides, but for the way her dad pushed her so high on the swing she felt like she could touch the clouds. Within minutes, she was dressed in her favorite pink hoodie, and they were on their way in Ethan's old pickup truck that rattled every time it hit a bump. Life hadn't been kind to Ethan. His wife, Hannah, had passed away when Lily was 2, a sudden illness that left him reeling. For years, he'd struggled to balance work, grief, and fatherhood. But he never let Lily see that pain. For her, he wanted the world to be gentle, kind, and full of hope, even if it wasn't always that way. When they arrived at the supermarket, the parking lot was already full. Families hurried in and out, shopping carts squeaking, children crying for candy. Ethan grabbed a cart with a shaky wheel and placed Lily inside the child's seat. She giggled as he gave the handle a playful push. "Let's make this quick, huh? Daddy's got spaghetti plans tonight," he said with mock seriousness. "Can we get chocolate milk too?" she asked sweetly. Ethan chuckled. "You drive a hard bargain, kiddo." They made their way through the aisles, bread, pasta, canned goods, each item carefully chosen from a small mental budget he kept track of like a second nature. He smiled at Lily's endless chatter, her innocent curiosity about everything around her. But as they turned into the snack aisle, laughter, sharp and cruel, broke the rhythm of their morning. At the far end, a little girl sat in a wheelchair beside her mother. She looked fragile, her small hands resting on her lap, her eyes fixed on the shelves of chips just out of reach. Her mother, clearly tired, stretched to grab a bag from the top shelf. But before she could reach it, 3 teenage boys appeared, loud, careless, and thoughtless. "Hey, check this out," one of them whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Bet she doesn't need leg day at the gym." The others burst out laughing. The mother froze, her hand trembling as she pulled the bag down. The girl's lips quivered, and her eyes filled with tears she tried desperately to hide. She turned her face away, hoping they'd stop. But they didn't. "What's wrong? Can't you stand up for yourself?" Another boy snickered. The laughter echoed down the aisle. Shoppers glanced over, then quickly looked away. No one wanted trouble. They pretended not to hear, focusing on cereal boxes and price tags. Lily's small voice broke the silence beside Ethan. "Daddy, why are they being mean?" Ethan's jaw tightened. His hands curled around the shopping cart handle. He took a deep breath, the kind that came before making a choice he knew might cost him something. Then he let go of the cart and stepped forward. "Hey," he said, his voice steady but cold. The boys turned, surprised. Ethan wasn't tall, but something in his stance made them hesitate. His eyes burned with quiet fury, the kind that comes from a man who's seen enough of life to know when to fight for what's right. "You think that's funny?" Ethan asked, mocking a kid. The tallest boy, maybe 16, rolled his eyes. "Relax, old man, we were just joking." Ethan took another step forward. "A joke is only funny if everyone's laughing." "She's not. Her mother's not. You're not being funny, you're being cruel." The boy smirked, trying to keep his bravado. "What's it to you, huh? You her dad or something?" Ethan didn't blink. "No, I'm a dad teaching his daughter what real men do when they see something wrong." Silence. The air seemed to freeze. Even the other shoppers stopped pretending not to listen. The lead boy's smirk faltered. He looked at his friends, but none of them laughed this time. The shame crept in slowly, visible on their faces. Without another word, they turned and walked away, not running, not apologizing, but defeated. Ethan exhaled slowly. He turned to the mother, whose eyes shimmered with tears. She clutched her daughter's hand tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," Ethan said gently. "No one deserves to be treated like that." He knelt down beside the girl's wheelchair. "Hey there, kiddo," he said softly. "Don't let people like that tell you who you are. You're braver than any of them." The girl looked up at him, a small smile breaking through her tears. Thank you, sir. He grinned. You can just call me Ethan. And that's Lily, he said, gesturing to his daughter. Lily waved shyly. I like your blanket, she said. It's pretty. The girl giggled. My grandma made it. Mine too, Lily said, her eyes lighting up. The two girls smiled at each other, a spark of innocent connection passing between them. Ethan stood up, nodding to the mother once more before returning to his cart. As he pushed it down the aisle, he could feel the eyes of other shoppers on him, some admiring, some ashamed. But he didn't care. He hadn't done it for them. He did it because his daughter was watching, and he wanted her to remember that kindness wasn't weakness, it was strength. What Ethan didn't notice was the man standing near the frozen section, watching the entire scene unfold. James Carter stood tall, dressed in a tailored navy suit that contrasted with the casual shoppers around him. His sharp features and composed demeanor made him stand out, but it was his eyes that held the most power. They were fixed on Ethan, full of quiet intrigue. James had come to the store unannounced. He owned the chain, Carter's Market, but rarely visited in person. He liked observing the real side of his business, the people who shopped there, the employees who worked hard for every dollar. But today, something else caught his attention, a single father standing up for a stranger. He saw the strength in Ethan's actions, the calm authority in his voice, and the love in the way he turned back to comfort his daughter. It stirred something inside James, something he hadn't felt in years. Compassion, respect, a reminder that humanity still existed beyond numbers and profit charts. As Ethan and Lily continued shopping, James followed at a distance, pretending to check items on a shelf. He listened to Lily's giggle echoing down the aisle and caught glimpses of the father's protective yet gentle demeanor. James didn't know who this man was, just that there was something genuine about him, something rare. And deep down, he knew this encounter wasn't over. Because sometimes, fate doesn't announce itself with thunder, it whispers quietly in a grocery aisle, disguised as an act of courage. The rain outside the supermarket had thickened into a misty drizzle, turning the parking lot into a sheet of gleaming reflections. Ethan loaded the last grocery bag into the back seat of his old pickup truck, his shirt clinging slightly to his shoulders from the damp air. Lily sat inside, her little hands pressed against the fogged-up window, drawing hearts and smiling faces with her finger. "Seatbelt on, kiddo?" he asked as he slid into the driver's seat. She nodded, grinning. "Yup, can we have spaghetti tonight like you promised?" He chuckled. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Just as he reached for the ignition, a soft knock came at the window. Ethan frowned, startled. Standing there was a man, tall, well-dressed, and out of place in a parking lot full of average people. His expensive umbrella and polished shoes hinted that he wasn't someone used to rain or dirt. The man gave a polite, cautious smile and gestured for Ethan to roll down the window. Ethan hesitated but lowered it halfway. "Can I help you?" The man extended his hand slightly, rain droplets sliding down his wristwatch. "Actually, I think I should be asking that. I just wanted to say, what you did in there was remarkable." Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. "You mean, with the kids?" The stranger nodded. "Yes, I saw everything. Most people just walk away. You didn't." Ethan shrugged. "Did what anyone should have done." The man smiled faintly. "I wish that were true." There was something calm yet commanding in his tone, the kind that came naturally to someone used to being listened to. Ethan studied him more carefully. His tailored suit, his measured voice, it all spoke of money and influence. "I'm James Carter," the man said finally. "I own this store, and a few others like it." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Carter's Market, that's your name on the building." James nodded. "That's right, but today, I wasn't here as a businessman. I was just a father." His gaze softened as he looked at Lily through the window. "You're raising her well." Ethan smiled tiredly. "Trying my best. It's just me and her now." James hesitated. "Single dad?" "Yeah," Ethan said quietly. "Lost her mom 5 years ago. She was sick, went fast. It's been rough, but Lily keeps me going." James nodded, his expression turning thoughtful. "I understand. I lost my wife too. 2 years ago. Cancer. My son." He paused, his throat tightening briefly. "He doesn't talk about it much." Withdrawn. "I've been trying to find ways to reach him, but money can't buy that kind of connection." Ethan looked at him with unexpected empathy. "Yeah, kids don't need money. They need time. They need to know someone's got their back, no matter what." James smiled. A real one this time, not the polished smile of a CEO. "You're right. That's something I lost sight of for a while." The rain fell between them like a curtain of silver. Neither man spoke for a moment. The world around them seemed quiet, as if it understood the weight of their conversation. Finally, James reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "Listen, I run a foundation, the Carter Hope Fund. We focus on helping children with disabilities. The girl in the wheelchair today, she's part of our program. What you did for her, it reminded me why I started all this in the first place. I want to expand, add a new branch focused on community compassion, on real stories like yours. Would you consider helping me?" Ethan blinked, confused. "Me? I'm just a mechanic, man. I don't know anything about foundations or business." James shook his head. "You know more than you think. You understand people, integrity, courage. Those are things you can't buy or teach, you live them." Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "You really think anyone wants to hear from a broke single dad?" "Yes," James said simply. "Because you're real, and people trust real." He handed over the card. "Think about it. I'd like to meet again, maybe over coffee." Ethan looked at the card, then back at him. There was sincerity in James's eyes that made it hard to refuse. "All right," he said slowly. "Coffee sounds fine." "Good," James said, smiling. "I'll have my assistant reach out. And Ethan, thank you. You reminded me what strength actually looks like." When James walked away, his reflection shimmered in the wet pavement, fading into the rain. Ethan sat in silence for a long moment, turning the card over in his hand. Lily leaned forward from the back seat. "Who was that, Daddy?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Someone who just needed a reminder, sweetheart." A week later, Ethan found himself standing outside a large glass building downtown, the Carter Foundation. He felt out of place in his cleanest flannel shirt and old jeans, but he held his head high. When he entered, James greeted him warmly and led him through the halls filled with colorful murals painted by children. They stopped before a sign that read, "The Stand Up Project." "This is the new initiative I mentioned," James said. "Inspired by what you did. It's about teaching kids, and adults, that kindness is courage. That standing up for others matters. And I want you to help launch it." Ethan stared at the sign, stunned. "Me? What would I even say?" "Just tell the truth," James replied. "Tell your story. The world listens to people who speak from the heart." The following week, Ethan stood before a crowd of parents, children, and teachers at the grand opening ceremony. Cameras flashed, reporters waited with notebooks, but Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the microphone. He glanced at Lily in the front row, sitting beside the same paralyzed girl from the store, now smiling brightly, holding Lily's hand. That small sight gave him courage. He cleared his throat and began, "I don't have fancy words or degrees. I'm not rich or important. I'm just a dad." But that day in the store, when I saw a little girl being laughed at, I realized something. The world doesn't change because of big speeches or big money. It changes when someone, anyone, decides to stand up for what's right. The audience was silent, every face turned toward him. He continued, "Being kind isn't about weakness. It's about strength, the kind that doesn't need to shout or fight. It's about showing our kids that doing the right thing is never the wrong choice." Applause erupted. Lily jumped up, clapping the loudest. The paralyzed girl's mother wiped her eyes. James stood to the side, his expression unreadable, but his eyes glistened with quiet pride. When it was over, James approached Ethan and extended his hand. "You have no idea how many people you reached today." Ethan smiled humbly. "I just said what I felt. That's why it worked," James replied. "You reminded everyone, including me, what real humanity looks like." He glanced over at their daughters, now laughing together. "You know," he said, "I think both our kids just found something special, friendship." Ethan nodded. "And maybe we did too." As they stood together, the crowd around them slowly dispersed. The two fathers, one wealthy and powerful, the other humble and hardworking, watched their daughters roll and run through the open courtyard under the afternoon sun. Different worlds, yet bound by the same truth: compassion has no price tag, and courage doesn't wear a suit. That day, two lives, and perhaps many more, changed forever because one man refused to look away. Sometimes, a simple act of standing up for someone can stand tall enough to move the world.